How effective is the United Nations in handling today's complex international crises? This question is becoming more difficult to answer as we grapple with the evolving nature of global challenges. The United Nations, as a beacon of hope, has been a significant player in promoting international peace. It stands as a testament to humanity's desire for unity and cooperation, a stark contrast to the failed League of Nations. However, this beacon is flickering in the face of daunting challenges. The complexity of international crises has grown exponentially, with issues like the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on sustainable development goals demanding immediate attention. Furthermore, the geopolitical landscape is riddled with mistrust and competition, creating divisions that threaten to fracture the unity the UN strives to maintain. The East and West, the global North and South, all seem to be pulling in different directions, undermining the effectiveness of this global institution. And then there's the question of outdated design. Institutions like the UN Security Council, once hailed as pillars of international cooperation, are now seen as relics of a bygone era, ill-equipped to handle the intricacies of the modern world. As we delve into the history of the UN, we question whether it is still the cornerstone of international cooperation. The roots of the UN are deeply embedded in the high-level conferences of the 1940s. It was then, in the shadow of a world war that had ravaged nations and left millions dead, that the idea of a global organization dedicated to preserving peace was born. The San Francisco Conference of 1945 was the birthing ground of this vision, bringing together delegates from 50 nations to draft the United Nations Charter. From its inception, the UN was designed to be a platform for collective action, a stage upon which countries could come together to address issues of global importance. Its original goals, as outlined in the Charter, included maintaining international peace and security, promoting social progress and better living standards, and upholding human rights. Over the decades, the UN has evolved, expanding its reach and remit, and responding to the changing needs of a dynamic world. However, it's not all been smooth sailing. One of the issues that has emerged over time is the outdated design of some of the UN's institutions, like the UN Security Council. The Council, with its 5 permanent members wielding veto power, was created in a different era, reflecting the geopolitical realities of the mid-20th century. But the world has changed, and the Council's structure has been criticized for not keeping pace. The lack of representation for smaller states, the imbalance of power, and the frequent deadlocks caused by the veto system have all been cited as factors that hinder the UN's effectiveness. There's also the challenge of geopolitical mistrust and competition, as the world finds itself increasingly divided along east-west lines and between the global north and south. This has further complicated the UN's task, making it harder to achieve consensus and carry out its mission. The UN has come a long way since those high-level conferences of the 1940s. It has weathered many storms, navigated complex crises, and helped shape the international landscape in numerous ways. But the question remains, is it equipped to handle today's global challenges? As conflicts persist and new crises emerge, the need for a strong, effective UN is more critical than ever. But to meet these challenges, it may need to revisit its roots, reassess its structures, and reinvent itself for the present day. The UN's ability to manage crises is put to the test by the conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine. The geopolitical complexities of these conflicts have pushed the United Nations towards a precarious tipping point. The Gaza and Ukraine wars, both marked by deep-seated historical tensions and intricate political dynamics, have presented the UN with a formidable challenge. In Gaza, the long-standing Israeli-Palestinian conflict complicates international peacekeeping efforts. The UN's efforts to mediate have often been hampered by divergent interests among its member states and the intricate nature of the conflict itself. Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine, a manifestation of the East-West divide, further exposes the limitations of the UN. It reveals how the organization's structure, rooted in the post-World War II geopolitical landscape, struggles to address the complexities of contemporary conflicts. These wars highlight the UN's difficulties in navigating the labyrinth of today's international crises. They not only test its ability to manage crises but also expose its institutional weaknesses and the limitations of its current design. These conflicts underscore the urgent need for UN reform. The time for UN reform is now. Small states, such as those in the Caribbean Community, or CARICOM, are taking an active interest in driving this change. They understand the value of a united, effective UN, and are working diligently to bring about the necessary reforms. However, the road to reform is not without its hurdles. One of the biggest obstacles is great power competition. It's like a game of chess on a global scale. Each move is calculated, each strategy devised with the intention of gaining an upper hand. This competition breeds mistrust and division, creating a rift between East and West, North and South. This rift is further widened by outdated institutional designs, like the UN Security Council, that are struggling to adapt to the complex nature of today's international crises. The global community is dealing with issues that surpass borders and demand collective action, from the COVID-19 pandemic to the Sustainable Development Goals. The UN is at a tipping point. It's a cornerstone of international cooperation, but its foundation is being undermined. The time to act is now, not tomorrow or the day after. The clock is ticking for the UN and its membership to address these pressing issues. As we stand on the precipice of change, it's important to remember that the United Nations was founded on the principles of peace, security, and human rights. Despite the obstacles, there is a path forward. It involves a shift in mindset, from competition to collaboration. In the face of global challenges, unity and collective action are not just ideals, but necessities. The UN must strive to bridge the East-West, North-South divide, embracing diversity and fostering inclusivity. This means giving a voice to the voiceless, making room at the table for all members, not just the powerful ones. It means updating and reforming outdated institutional designs to better reflect the realities of the 21st century. The UN Security Council, for instance, could benefit from a more equitable representation of member states. But reform is not just about structural changes, it's about fostering a culture of transparency, accountability, and efficiency. It's about upholding the values that the UN was founded upon and ensuring they are reflected in every action it takes. The road to reform is long and arduous, but with collective will and action, it is a journey we can undertake. For the sake of peace, for the sake of security, for the sake of human rights, we must press on. The clock is ticking, but together, we can shape a UN that is fit for purpose, fit for the future, and fit to uphold the principles it was founded upon. As we have seen, the road to reform is not without its hurdles. But let's not forget, every journey begins with a single step. The first step on this path is acknowledging the need for change. The UN has been a beacon of hope for many, but it must ensure it does not become a fading light. It must strive to be a shining example of what collective action, unity, and peace can achieve. To do this, it needs to embrace reform, to adapt to the changing world around it, and to ensure it remains relevant and effective in the face of new global challenges. This means not only structural changes but also cultural ones. A culture of transparency, accountability, and efficiency must be fostered at all levels of the organization. We must remember, change is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. It is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to better ourselves and the world around us. It is a chance for the UN to reaffirm its commitment to peace, security, and human rights. Change may be daunting, but it is necessary. And with collective will and action, it is not only possible, but within our reach. The path towards change may be long and arduous, but it is a journey worth taking. For the sake of peace, for the sake of security, for the sake of human rights, we must press on. In the next section, we will look at some of the steps that have already been taken on this path towards change and how you, as a global citizen, can play a part in this journey. Stay tuned, the future is in our hands. Closing, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to leave your comments below. Your voice matters in this global conversation.